What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more chess from Benny Andersson, Bjorn Ulvaeus, and Tim Rice. Thank you again to Robert for providing this. And unfortunately, the next track in the playlist, Robert provided a version of this album which includes at least a few bonus tunes or songs that weren't in the original version of the album. And the next one in the playlist was one of those, Someone Else's Story, but for the life of me, I couldn't get it to work. I tried it in some different players, it kept closing or freezing the players in question, so I'm not sure what happened. Maybe there was a bit of a glitch when I downloaded the folders provided by Robert, but yes, Someone Else's Story wouldn't play, so we're going to jump to the next track, which I think is the next track in the regular or original version of the album, and that is Embassy Lament. So in that regard, I'm inclined to interpret it as the Soviet embassy, not only because of the context of the album so far, but also for having read a lot of, say, John le Carré fiction, where Soviet embassies often serve as fronts for espionage or at least political activities that are not formally or legally under the auspices of a diplomatic embassy. So that would be my expectation. Obviously, I could be mistaken. Let's give it a listen and see what I can catch. This is Benny, Bjorn, and Tim Rice from their chess album, and the track is Embassy Lament.
Oh, my dear, how boring. He's defecting, just like all the others. He's expecting us to be impressed with what he's done here, but he hasn't stopped to think about the paperwork his gesture causes. We've an embassy to run here. If these people can't strike blows for freedom with a valid visa, we don't need them. If you seem offhand, then please remember this is nothing very special. He's the fourth with has his last November. Who do these foreign champions think they are? And when he's safely in the West, he'll be the hero to discuss. The media will lionize him, fame and fortune plus. No one will recall it thanks to us. Have you an appointment with the consul? If you don't, we know what is responsible. He will not see you with respect. His brothers up his very taxing trail to pushing peace and understanding. Let us hope this won't affect him. Far too many jokers cross the border. Not a single document in order. Russia must be empty, though we're all for basic human rights. It makes you wonder what they built the Berlin Wall for. Who do these foreign chappies think they are? And when you fill in all the forms and mean pass clear of all disease, debrief him, bumpy, drunk, dissolved and disinfected, please. Don't forget the guys who cut your keys.
Wow, well, that was a shorter one. This would be not even 2 minutes. Yeah, like a minute and a half. So I think I was right. I think it's referencing someone on the Russian squad who is going, or the Soviet squad who is going to defect to the West. And I think there's a bit of, well, good riddance sentiment here. And also a bit of when you're in the decadent West and the ills of those societies that we talk about in our official state propaganda are causing you to regret or lament that you left, then maybe, you wish you hadn't. But I think there's also he's going to be the toast of the town. Everyone's going to be writing about him. Everyone's going to lionize him and celebrate him as this hero. So there's a bit, I think, of sour grapes attitude, but also a genuine lament that, this is going to be a talking point for Western media, and everyone's going to talk about, Russia's empty now. Is there anyone left? Because everyone's leaving. Everyone's defecting. So, yeah, I think there's a bit of wit in how they're regarding the player's potential future in the West, but also we're in a spot where we can't really do anything about it. And also, I'm not sure about the idea that, we're the one who cut your keys, but no one's going to remember you. I mean, I get the idea that, they trained him, they made him who he was, or, who he has become, and thus, the whole reason that he's going to be a cause célèbre in the West is because of the learning and the training and the development that he got within the Soviet Union. But I'm not sure about the idea of no one's going to remember you. Is it no one's going to remember you in the Soviet Union or in our circles because you're just, good riddance, forget you, you're just, you're just one of many who've done this and, you know, shown your true colors? Or is it like he'll be forgotten in the West eventually and, you know, no one, like, people won't care about him anymore after the initial convenience of saying, oh, look, it's another, you know, top Soviet who's defected to the West, and then eventually they won't care about you and you'll again be exposed to all the shortcomings of Western civilization. So maybe I'm completely off with all of that, but yeah, it was quick. I was expecting to settle in and to digest what I was hearing at length, but yeah, then all of a sudden it ended. And yeah, like sonically, I enjoyed it. It's, you know, almost like a bit of Gilbert and Sullivan or something, or maybe like the cheekier end of an Andrew Lloyd Webber type composition, and it's amusing use of speed, like cadence and rhythm of the line deliveries. I will say there was this pulsing synth type melody. I really enjoyed that. It had this very electric sound to it, but it was just kind of atmosphere setting. It wasn't like, you know, a real driving dynamic melody that really took your attention away from the lyrics. So it gave it atmosphere but let you focus on the voices. In any case, another cool and compelling tune in this really engaging, and as a historian, including someone who, to a limited degree, studied the Cold War, it is especially interesting. So, yeah, I'm enjoying the journey. Shout out to Robert once again, and I will see you next time. Peace.